I'm not filming or doing anything with 6ix9ine anymore.
This friendship didn't end because of clout. It didn't end because of ego. It ended because of millions of dollars and a betrayal neither one of them saw coming. 6ix9ine built an empire on controversy, music, scandals, beefs, and headlines that never stopped. SteveWillDoIt built his success on chaos, extreme challenges, viral pranks, and pushing the limits. Two men from completely different worlds, drawn together by the internet until the money disappeared, the trust collapsed, and both of them hit rock bottom. But what really happened behind closed doors is what no one saw coming. This tumultuous friendship didn't start with a contract. It started with a 17-year-old kid in Florida and a pair of headphones.
And so I've been hanging around you guys, you know what I'm saying? You guys show me what like true friends, what it feels like, you know what I'm saying? So like I told you like, yo, like I'm thinking about making music, and then you're like, come to the studio.
Long before the full send era, a young Steve Deleonardis was just another fan tweeting at 6ix9ine and blasting music through his speakers. By 2019, Steve had been pulled from a frat party into the center of the NELK Boys' rising empire. Obscene challenges, extreme drinking, outrageous pranks. Chaos wasn't a byproduct, it was the brand.
Next criminal. Let's go. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Fast forward 20 years later.
Steve built his name by doing what no one else would, and doing it louder, harder, and with zero fear of consequences. Backed by the NELK Boys, his rise on YouTube was explosive. While Steve was finding fame, Tekashi 6ix9ine was finding his way out of a jail cell. The world knew him as the ultimate villain, the snitch who broke the street code to save his own skin. He was a man with a target on his back and a shortened sentence that made him the most hated, most watched person on the planet. What started as a fan watching from the sidelines quickly turned into a friendship, and then into a partnership that looked unstoppable. On August 10th, 2020, these two paths finally crossed.
I didn't go through what I went through, and I still came home, and I'm a legend at the age of 24 years old because I came home and a rat is doing more numbers than you. I would be mad too.
In a video titled The Return of 6ix9ine, published by the NELK Boys, the world watched as Kyle Four-Geared and SteveWillDoIt bypassed layers of armed security to reach 6ix9ine's high-stakes hiding spot. It was a cultural explosion. The full send lifestyle meeting the most dangerous man in music. This collaboration quickly racked up tens of millions of views, as it was one of 6ix9ine's first major public appearances post-prison. To the world, it was a viral masterpiece, a chaotic blur of pranks and partnerships that took the internet by storm. To Steve, it was the dream he always wanted, the arrival of a brother he'd idolized for years.
Came to my house, he brought $250,000 cash, and then I said, all right, where are we going? He's like, we're going to Mexico. So he flew me out like an Instagram thought.
But as the cameras flashed and the millions poured in, Steve didn't realize he was signing a contract that would eventually demand a price he was not willing to pay. The public saw the jets, the jewelry, and the viral stunts. What they didn't see was the destructive and deafening drain on their bank accounts. Steve didn't just want a cameo, he wanted an alliance. And in his world, loyalty was measured in currency. Shortly after their first meeting, Steve showed up at 6ix9ine's safe house with a shoebox. It wasn't a prop for a video, and there was no hidden camera for a prank. Inside was $250,000 in cash, a $250,000 welcome home gift to a man the rest of the world had left for dead. This was the beginning of a spending spree that bordered on the absurd. Within days of streaming together, Steve was flying alongside the most hated rapper in America. Private jets, armed security, 5-star villas. In just 1 week, Steve burned through more than $600,000, casually handing 6ix9ine a $400,000 Richer Mill watch. For the first time, the rapper who built his empire on chaos looked genuinely stunned. 6ix9ine had spent years watching his back, dodging threats, betrayals, and fake loyalty disguised as friendship. Steve wasn't asking for favors or returns. He just wanted to be real for someone the world had written off. What Steve didn't realize, when you show someone you're willing to spend a fortune just to be in their circle, you aren't building a friendship. You're showing them exactly how much you're willing to lose. The meeting of these two personalities was the birth of the internet's most unstoppable duo. Over the following months, the two became inseparable. A relentless series of collaborations began to flood Steve's channel, each one more extreme than the last. With 6ix9ine's polarizing fame and Steve's full send energy, the views didn't just climb, they dominated YouTube. Steve's channel grew at a rate very few had ever seen, fueled by the mystery and the madness of having the world's most wanted rapper as a permanent co-star. Was this real brotherhood or just an illusion bought with cash? Then came the moment that silenced the skeptics. 6ix9ine returned a favor in a way no one expected.
Yesterday, I was twisted. I never received a gift like that. I don't get gifts. I'm usually the one giving gifts.
By giving Steve a 1 of 10 custom McLaren. It was a statement piece, $1 million supercar that signaled to the world that this wasn't a one-sided leech job. To the public, it looked like genuine brotherhood. Two men bonded by excess, chaos, and mutual loyalty. What started as strategy slowly transformed into something far more dangerous: trust. By 2022, Steve and 6ix9ine were an industry-dominating content machine. Steve was finally evolving from a viral prankster into a legitimate mogul, launching massive business ventures with NELK and scaling the Full Send brand to new heights. But while Steve was building a future, 6ix9ine was busy reclaiming his past. The rapper was staging a massive comeback, and he was doing it the only way he knew how: through pure, unadulterated conflict. He was back in the headlines, reigniting explosive feuds with some of the biggest names in the genre, from Lil Durk and Chief Keek to Fivio Foreign. The air was thick with tension, and 6ix9ine was moving like a man with nothing to lose. Steve was fully locked in, loyal, committed, and riding the high of their explosive growth. From the outside, the partnership looked unbreakable, but the first real crack didn't come from a failed deal or a money dispute. It came from a jacket. A small detail that would become the centerpiece of a setup no one saw coming. And the moment Steve crossed a line he didn't know even existed. Suddenly, he wasn't just chasing views. He was stepping into a war that wasn't his. It started as a pitch. In April 2022, 6ix9ine approached Steve with what sounded like another viral win: squashing a beef with Lil Durk. The idea was simple: bring in Perkio, the Lil Durk lookalike, and turn the moment into a parody. To Steve, it looked harmless, a joke, a bridge builder, easy content. What he didn't realize was that he was being positioned as a pawn in a much deeper feud. Steve expected a small crew and a lighthearted video. Instead, he arrived in a full room of 6ix9ine's entourage and an unsettling tone he didn't recognize.
It's got bro the jacket. You know what I'm saying? The whole jacket.
Before Steve could put two and two together, it was too late. 6ix9ine forced a jacket onto Perkio, featuring an image of the late King Von, in an attempt to taunt Lil Durk. King Von was Lil Durk's close friend who had been tragically gunned down in the streets of Chicago. This video quickly sparked widespread backlash from fans, other artists, and the streets. This was a street code violation and blatant disrespect. 6ix9ine had a long, bitter history of mocking Von's death, but now he was doing it on Steve's platform. Steve's name was suddenly under fire, his reputation questioned, and his brand dragged into a feud that was never his to begin with. As a key face of NELK in the Full Send brand, the optics were brutal, especially since Lil Durk had recently appeared on the Full Send podcast. Now, Steve was being accused of orchestrating a setup, using a Lil Durk clone to mock a man who'd lost his life. The internet didn't see a friendly skit. They saw Steve as an accomplice in a war he had no business being in, to protect his brand, his future, and himself.
But the whole idea was to get the title, right? I got 6ix9ine and Lil Durk to squash their beef. it didn't really matter what was in the video. It could have been 30 seconds, 45 seconds, right? It's all about for YouTube.
Steve did something he'd never done before. Sitting in the hot seat on the I Am Athlete podcast, he publicly apologized, admitting it was never what he intended. But more importantly, he made a public declaration that would change everything.
I'm not filming or doing anything with 6ix9ine anymore.
With that sentence, Steve cut himself off from the chaos and his best friend. For the first time, the price of friendship was undeniable. It wasn't just money or supercars. It was Steve's safety, his reputation, the future of Full Send, and everything he'd built. And now came the question that would define him. Would he actually walk away? In the wake of the Perkio disaster, Steve was already fighting for his reputation. He tried to pivot, rebranding with massive giveaways and new gambling partnerships to regain his footing. But on August 1st, 2022, just months after the jacket incident, the nightmare became a reality. Steve woke up to find that his digital empire had been erased. In a single morning, a channel with over 4 million subscribers and billions of views was gone. All his life's work deleted permanently. YouTube cited severe and repeated violations, specifically targeting the gambling promotions that had fueled his high roller brand. In an instant, Steve didn't just lose his platform, he lost his identity. He would later admit that the ban sent him into a deep depression, leaving him directionless, isolated, and stripped of the purpose that once defined him. But as the news of his ban spread, the fallout deepened. Sensing a sinking ship, the industry began to distance itself from the canceled SteveWillDoIt. Reports emerged that other creators were being intimidated, warned that filming with Steve could result in strikes or penalties on their own channels. The industry moved on without him.
I guess he was banned for, like, putting a gambling link in his URL, but I don't know. I think that was just an excuse.
Opportunities were scarce, support thinned, but one presence remained closer than he realized. 1 year later, the world would see the true cost of that isolation. For 12 months, the silence was deafening. No collabs, no vlogs, no sightings. Most people thought the Perkio incident was the end. But for Steve, losing YouTube meant he had nothing left to lose. But SteveWillDoIt doesn't play by the world's rules. He's a gambler at heart, and in his mind, you never walk away from the table on a loss. In July 2023, the internet froze. Steve posted a photo that erased every warning he'd been given, arm in arm with the man who nearly destroyed his life. The caption said it all. What anyone says, 6ix9ine is my dog for life. Shit happens. Life's a gamble. The dynamic duo was back. Not quietly, but all in. When the world turned its back on Steve, one person hadn't. 6ix9ine. That loyalty mattered, and to Steve, it justified everything that came next.
Like,
he is a nice dude, and he
is, and that's why I really was drawn to him. Like when he, I like that shit gets me going. When I see someone do something, just treat.
The reunion was a second chance, a reset. The reconciliation felt like a fresh start, but in Steve's world, every second chance is just another bet. Steve had put his reputation on the line to bring 6ix9ine back into the spotlight once again. He spent months behind the scenes leveraging his connections to secure 6ix9ine massive streaming deals and video collaborations. Both were convinced if they could just get the cameras rolling again, they could reclaim their spot at the top of the food chain. Steve used his massive leverage in the streaming world to lock in a monumental contract with Rumble. Because Steve was banned from YouTube, he had to rely on a combination of 3 other platforms: Twitter, Rumble, and Instagram. The deal was simple but lucrative. $2 million up for 6ix9ine to stream himself playing on Rumble for 1 hour per week. 6ix9ine was all in, but while Steve was opening doors, his business partners were quietly closing them. The Full Send brand had grown into a corporate machine with massive sponsorships and long-term stakes. To the people holding the checkbooks, 6ix9ine wasn't a partner in crime. he was a liability. Behind closed doors, the pushback was relentless. Collabs were blocked. Videos that were already filmed were shelved. Massive projects were quietly killed before they could ever see the light of day. For 6ix9ine, the silence was insulting. He'd been all in on a comeback, but as the weeks passed with no releases and no views, his ego began to flare. He didn't see the corporate red tape Steve was fighting. He saw a friend who was suddenly ashamed to stand next to him. In 6ix9ine's world, if you aren't with him, you're against him. Feeling slighted and ignored, 6ix9ine decided to burn the bridge while Steve was still standing on it. He pocketed the $2 million advance and vanished into a reckless spending spree, knowing full well that Steve was his guarantor. It wasn't just a breach of contract, it was a calculated act of spite. If the first crack in their friendship was the Perkio incident, this was the seismic shift that shattered the bond for good. Steve began to spiral. After putting his neck on the line for his friend and giving him a second chance, Steve was met with a betrayal that cut deeper than any contract. Was 6ix9ine right to feel slighted when Steve's partners forced him to choose between his brand and his friend? Or did he cross a line that can never be uncrossed? In his pain, Steve crashed out. The nice guy persona was gone, replaced by a man fueled by pure, unfiltered resentment. What happened next was a total departure from what the SteveWillDoIt fans knew. A move so cold, so calculated, and so personal that the internet knew there was no coming back. Steve decided that if 6ix9ine was going to go low, he was going to go lower. On May 1st, 2024, Steve released a video that changed everything, titled, "I Adopted 6ix9ine's Daughter."
So when I meet his daughter, it looks just like him.
I just wanted Danny to take care of his daughter. I didn't want all of this.
Steve didn't just attack the rapper's bank account, he attacked his soul. He sat down with 6ix9ine's daughter and mother, Sarah Molina, to expose a truth that the man who flexed millions online was a deadbeat father who had rejected his own blood since the day she was born.
Told me I'd known 6ix9ine 4 or 5 years. I said, how much money has he given to his daughter for 5 years? He said 20,000, right?
As Sarah spoke openly about the neglect, Steve stepped into the father figure role as a tactical strike, providing for the child 6ix9ine had abandoned. It was the ultimate you. Steve was showing the world that 6ix9ine was a man who failed at one thing money couldn't buy. The gamble was over. Steve had lost millions and his friendship was non-existent, but in that bitter video, he made sure the world knew exactly who Daniel Hernandez really was. After the adoption video, the bridge was burned. Steve had stripped away 6ix9ine's pride, and 6ix9ine had stripped away Steve's trust. But as the dust settled in late 2025, a strange silence fell over the feud. 6ix9ine didn't strike back with rage. Instead, he took a surprising approach. In interviews, he began praising Steve, calling him a good guy, and expressing a desire to squash the beef.
Is a great guy. I want to start off saying that SteveWillDoIt is a great guy.
The turning point came during a high-profile stream featuring 6ix9ine, Aiden Ross, Neon, and Bendadon. 6ix9ine sat down for a live polygraph test, and with the world watching, he was asked a question that had defined the last 2 years.
Did you steal from SteveWillDoIt?
Yes.
Damn. True?
Do you regret it?
Yes.
True?
I'll make mistakes.
At least he can admit it. He's a man. A real man makes, owns up to his mistakes.
He didn't just confess. He looked into the camera and said he regretted it. For fans, supporters, and even his harshest critics, it was a heart-wrenching moment. For the first time, the mask of the villain slipped, revealing a man who realized he had sabotaged the only person who truly cared for him. It's a reminder that in the world of high-stakes fame, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. This friendship didn't collapse overnight. It cracked slowly, eroding under the weight of millions of dollars, corporate pressure, and the jagged edges of broken trust. But for 6ix9ine, the apology came as his world was closing in. By January 2026, his legal battles had reached a breaking point. Facing a 3-month prison sentence for violating his supervised release, 6ix9ine was no longer looking for clout. He was accepting his fate. And in a move that only Steve Will Do It could make, the two made amends. Again. For 3 years, the internet has watched this friendship cycle through millions of dollars, public betrayals, and unforgivable acts. By every logic of the modern world, this bond should have been buried a long time ago. Yet, here they are. On January 6th, 2026, as 6ix9ine prepared to turn himself in to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, Steve was right there by his side. In a video that felt like the end of an era, Steve sent him off, sharing a laugh before the rapper walked toward the prison gates. Steve had lost millions. He had been deplatformed. He'd been dragged into dangerous beefs and public scandals. But as he watched his dog for life go behind bars, the message was clear. Steve's loyalty isn't a business transaction. It's a life sentence. As 6ix9ine serves his time, the internet's left to wonder, is this finally the end of the chaos?
6ix9ine, you don't have to watch this, but look. See your chain? Look.
Or is this just another pause in the greatest gamble of Steve's life? Only time will tell if the gamble was worth the price. But for now, the table is closed.